Have you ever wondered why ancient Egyptians worshipped cats? Or why dragons symbolize power across so many cultures? From the fearsome lion to the wise owl, animals were more than just creatures to our ancestors. They were sacred symbols, embodying gods, guiding spirits, and even predicting the future. Prepare to unlock the hidden meanings behind the animal kingdom in ancient beliefs.
From the earliest flickers of civilization, humans looked at the natural world with a sense of awe, fear, and reverence. In the shifting glow of firelit nights, they saw beasts whose strength, grace, or mystery felt otherworldly. Long before written myths shaped coherent stories, animals were already symbols, silent teachers who embodied the deepest questions of existence. People watched the sky and saw the eagle circling far beyond human reach, believing its wings carried messages to the gods. They observed the serpent sliding through the earth, shedding its skin as though reborn, and imagined it held the secret to immortality. In these ancient landscapes, animals became vessels of meaning, and through them, humans tried to understand the forces that shaped the world. As tribes settled into early civilizations, the symbolic roles of animals expanded and intertwined with religion, politics, and identity. A king might trace his lineage to a lion, insisting that the beast's ferocity lived within his bloodline. A shaman might believe that the spirit of a wolf guided him during dream journeys beyond the realm of the living. These beliefs did not merely decorate mythology. They shaped laws, rituals, funerary practices, and social hierarchies. Sacred animals were woven into the structures that organized life, death, and everything in between. Over time, entire priesthoods formed around their worship, and temples rose in honor of the beasts whose presence bridged the human and divine worlds. The story of sacred animals is also the story of how people made sense of invisible forces. Floods, droughts, storms, disease, all these natural phenomena seemed governed by unseen entities. To understand them, ancient people looked to creatures who appeared to possess powers humans lacked. The bull, with its sheer strength, suggested the fertility of the land. The falcon's sharp gaze represented divine insight. The bear's hibernation mirrored cycles of death and rebirth. In these patterns, humans believed they discovered reflections of cosmic truths, and so the beasts became symbols that explained the rhythms of the universe. Yet animal symbolism was never static. It grew and changed as societies evolved, as empires rose and fell, and as trade routes connected distant cultures. When merchants traveled with goods, they carried stories as well, and with those stories came new interpretations of sacred animals. A creature feared in one land could be revered in another. The serpent, feared as an agent of chaos in some traditions, was celebrated as a creator or healer in others. Through these exchanges, the symbolic landscape became rich and multi-layered, a tapestry constantly rewritten by human imagination. In this unfolding narrative, the line between animal and deity often blurred. Some gods took the form of animals, while others appeared as hybrids, human bodies with animal heads, merging earthly and divine characteristics. These figures became central pillars of mythology. They taught moral lessons, protected cities, judged souls, and shaped creation. To worship them meant to acknowledge the ancient bond between human life and the vast world of beasts. Rituals developed in which people invoked these sacred creatures for protection, prosperity, or guidance. Sometimes actual animals were kept in temples, cared for as living embodiments of divine forces.
This deep reverence also influenced how societies structured their worldviews. Animals became metaphors for human virtues and vices, tools for teaching younger generations about courage, wisdom, loyalty, and deception. Myths told through the personas of beasts bridged the gap between abstract moral concepts and human behavior. A child might not understand the complexities of justice, but they understood the noble behavior of a lion or the cunning of a fox. Through these stories, cultural identities formed, identities tied to the creatures that roamed their lands. But as civilization advanced, so too did the complexities of animal symbolism. Animals were no longer simply metaphors. They became political emblems and markers of divine authority. A ruler who associated himself with a powerful beast could legitimize his claim to the throne. A warrior who wore the pelt of a sacred animal believed he carried that creature's spirit into battle. These symbols permeated art, architecture, and literature, shaping the aesthetic identity of entire cultures. Sacred animals appeared carved into palace walls, painted on pottery, woven into sacred texts, and inscribed into sacred texts. Each image served as a reminder that behind every human endeavor stood the silent guidance of the animal world. In this ancient dialogue between humans and beasts, a shared spiritual landscape emerged, a space where life, death, nature, and divinity intersected. This relationship did not arise merely from superstition. It arose from genuine observation of the natural world. Humans learned from animal behavior, how to hunt, how to survive harsh seasons, how to navigate the land. Animals were teachers long before they became symbols. Their wisdom shaped early human decision-making, nurturing a sense of respect that soon became sacred. Religion grew from this respect, transforming practical knowledge into spiritual meaning. Thus began a long lineage of sacred beasts, each playing a unique role in the mythologies of different civilizations. Some were creators who shaped the cosmos from chaos. Others were guardians who watched over the world. Still others were tricksters who challenged human assumptions, forcing people to confront their own limitations. Together, they formed an expansive tapestry that reflected the human struggle to understand existence itself. And in every culture, whether in the deserts of Egypt, the forests of Europe, the mountains of South Asia, or the valleys of the Americas, these symbols took on lives of their own, shaping beliefs for thousands of years. The civilizations that flourished along the great rivers, the Nile, Tigris, Euphrates, Indus, became some of the earliest architects of animal-centered cosmologies. In these landscapes, dependence on nature was immediate and overwhelming. The rising and falling waters that nourished crops also threatened to destroy entire settlements. Animals were barometers of ecological stability, their movements and behaviors signaling shifts in seasons or environmental conditions. For these reasons, ancient people believed animals were in communication with divine forces. If the ibis returned to the riverbank, the flood must come soon. If cattle behaved strangely, an unseen spirit was passing through the land. Observations like these became ritual practices and sacred knowledge. Egypt offers perhaps the most iconic example. Here, the boundaries between animal and deity dissolved almost entirely. Gods such as Horus, Anubis, Bastet, Sobek, Thoth, and Hathor took on animal forms or possessed animal attributes. These beings were not merely symbolic, they were actively worshipped as manifestations of cosmic principles. Horus, with the head of a falcon, symbolized kingship and divine oversight. The soaring flight of the falcon became a metaphor for the pharaoh's connection to the heavens. Anubis, depicted as a jackal, guarded the realm of the dead, protecting the souls of the departed. Egyptians associated jackals with cemeteries because they were often seen wandering near burial sites, and this natural behavior transformed into a divine guardianship role. Temples were not just spiritual centers, but repositories of animal life. Sacred animals were cared for as living embodiments of deities. They were fed, clothed, adorned with jewelry, and upon death, mummified with the same ritual precision as royal figures. These practices stemmed from a belief system in which animals were not inferior beings, but essential components of the cosmic order. To harm a sacred creature was both a moral violation and a spiritual danger, for it disrupted the balance that maintained harmony in the universe. This reverence extended into everyday life. Household shrines often featured animal figurines meant to bring protection, good fortune, or fertility. People prayed to cats to ward off pests that threatened grain stores. They revered bulls as symbols of masculine strength and agricultural abundance. Even mundane occurrences, like the behavior of birds or the presence of certain insects, were interpreted as divine messages. Thus, animals served as intermediaries in the Egyptian worldview,
connecting human existence with the invisible realm of gods and spirits.
Beyond Egypt, Mesopotamia developed its own pantheon of animal-linked deities. The lion, bull, and eagle were common motifs, appearing frequently in seals and mythological texts. The lion, associated with Ishtar, symbolized ferocity, war, and sexual power. The bull represented storms and agricultural fertility, linked to gods like Adad. Meanwhile, mythic hybrid creatures such as the Lamassu, beings with the body of a bull or lion, the wings of an eagle, and the head of a human, guarded palace entrances, serving as protective spirits. These beings were not just decorative, they were believed to ward off chaos and malevolent forces. Their imposing forms communicated power and divine protection to all who entered the city. Mesopotamian mythology also embraced serpents as both protectors and threats. The serpent dragon Tiamat embodied primordial chaos, her defeat marking the creation of the cosmos. Yet other serpents symbolized healing and renewal, demonstrating the duality inherent in animal symbolism. In these myths, beasts reflected the tensions of life, creation and destruction, order and chaos, benevolence and danger. Across these early civilizations, animals became repositories of symbolic meaning, shaping the identities of cities, rulers, and social institutions. Their imagery reinforced power structures and guided collective behavior. Whether through worship, myth-making, or artistic representation, animals symbolized the forces that humans sought to understand and influence. As these societies expanded, their symbolic beasts traveled with them, shaping new myths, merging with foreign beliefs, and evolving across generations.
The ancient world did not limit its sacred animals to those that inspired awe through size or strength alone. There were also creatures whose meanings emerged from subtle behaviors, environmental roles, and the quiet mysteries of their existence. Across continents, as cultures matured and diversified, the symbolic relationship between humans and animals became even more layered. In Greece, India, Persia, China, and the Americas, animal symbolism took on philosophical, metaphysical, and ethical dimensions. Animals were no longer simply representations of divine power. They became metaphors for the human journey, mirrors reflecting emotional, intellectual, and spiritual struggles. Their myths formed bridges between earthly life and cosmic truth, and in these bridges, entire belief systems found their foundations. In the Greek world, animals served as extensions of divine will, woven into myths that explored human nature. The owl, sacred to Athena, became a symbol of wisdom, clarity, and strategy. Its nocturnal vision represented the power to see truth hidden in darkness, a metaphor for the philosopher's search for knowledge. Greeks admired animals not only for their physical traits, but for the moral lessons their stories conveyed. The eagle, associated with Zeus, symbolized authority and the sweeping, impartial power of the sky. It was the creature chosen to punish Prometheus, reinforcing the idea that divine authority could not be challenged without consequences. Greek myths often cast animals as arbiters of justice, protectors of sacred spaces, or omens that guided kings and heroes. They were woven so tightly into the narratives that to remove them would be to unravel the stories themselves. But the Greeks also looked inward through their animals, seeing aspects of human identity reflected in them. Centaurs, part human and part horse, explored the tension between rationality and primal instinct. Satyrs exaggerated humanity's unrestrained desires, reminding people of the fragile balance between discipline and chaos. The Minotaur represented the monstrous potential that grew when civilizations suppressed truth or buried shame. These beings were not simply creatures of imagination. They embodied emotional and psychological realities. Through them, ancient thinkers asked questions about morality, identity, and the human place in the cosmos.
In the East, symbolism took on even more complex spiritual dimensions. In India, animals inhabited a cosmology driven by cycles: creation, preservation, and destruction. The cow emerged as a symbol of life, nourishment, and motherly abundance. Its calm presence and role in sustaining agricultural society elevated it beyond a simple creature into a spiritual emblem. Elephants represented memory, wisdom, and the removal of obstacles, embodied most famously in Ganesha, whose elephant form symbolized the fusion of divine intellect and earthly strength. The serpent played a dual role, both feared and revered, representing cosmic energy coiled within the body. When awakened, this energy led spiritual seekers toward enlightenment, turning the serpent into a metaphor for the human potential lying dormant in every soul. The tiger, in contrast, symbolized raw power, independence, and the untamed forces of the wilderness. Yet it was not feared in the same way a Western culture might fear such a beast. Instead, it was respected as a guardian of forests and spiritual realms. The tiger became a reminder of the balance between civilization and nature, an ever-present reminder that life thrived not through domination, but through harmony. Thus, Indian beliefs embraced animals not only as symbols of gods, but as expressions of cosmic principles. Each creature represented a particular facet of existence, and through them, humans understood their place in the universal order. Farther east, in China, animal symbolism became the backbone of philosophy, astrology, and imperial identity. Animals were not just participants in myth, they were markers of time, personality, and destiny. The dragon embodied power, transformation, and the forces of nature. Unlike the monstrous European dragon, the Chinese dragon was benevolent, wise, and connected to the life-giving rains. It symbolized imperial authority, its movements across the sky representing cosmic harmony. The phoenix symbolized renewal, justice, and the endless cycle of destruction and rebirth. When paired with the dragon, it represented the balance between masculine and feminine forces that shaped the world. The tiger again held a prominent place, symbolizing courage, protection, and military strength. It was believed to ward off evil and misfortune, and its image adorned temples, shields, and the armor of warriors. The tortoise, with its long life and slow, steady movement, represented stability, longevity, and the foundations of the universe. Snakes, cranes, monkeys, and fish all held roles that blended natural observation with spiritual insight. Chinese beliefs viewed animals as partners in shaping the cosmic order, each carrying a piece of the universe's logic. Their meanings were not arbitrary. They were built upon generations of careful study of animal behavior, turning ecological knowledge into spiritual wisdom.
In Persia, animals symbolized the eternal struggle between light and darkness, good and evil. The lion became a symbol of kingship and divine justice, representing the power to protect the righteous and destroy the wicked. Birds played a vital role in Persian myths as symbols of transcendence and spiritual evolution. The simurgh, a great mythical bird, nurtured heroes and guided prophets, representing the soul's journey toward purity. This creature's wisdom connected the earthly world with the divine, emphasizing the Persian belief that spiritual truth unfolded through inner transformation, rather than brute power. Dogs, meanwhile, were honored for their loyalty and purity. In Zoroastrian tradition, they protected the soul during its passage after death, reinforcing their role as guardians between realms. In these beliefs, animals served not only as symbols, but as companions, guiding humanity through the trials of life and the mysteries of the afterlife. The indigenous cultures of the Americas developed yet another mode of understanding animals, one rooted deeply in ancestral connection and ecological integration. In these societies, animals did not merely symbolize spiritual concepts, they were considered kin, teachers, and co-creators of the world. The eagle, soaring higher than any bird, represented vision, courage, and communication with the spirit world. Its feathers became sacred tools in ceremonies, beliefs to carry prayers upward. The bear symbolized resilience, healing, and introspection. Its hibernation patterns inspired rituals of renewal and inner transformation. The wolf served as a guide for community structure, teaching lessons about cooperation, loyalty, and collective survival. Each animal contributed to the cultural worldview in a way that reinforced the interconnectedness of all living beings. In Mesoamerica, symbolism took on even more dramatic forms. The jaguar emerged as a central figure in myths of the Maya, Aztec, and Olmec civilizations. This creature symbolized the night, the underworld, and the mysterious forces that governed fate. Shamans believed that taking on spirit of the jaguar allowed them to walk between worlds, gaining knowledge inaccessible to ordinary humans. The feathered serpent, known as Kukulkan or Quetzalcoatl, represented the union of earth and sky, material and spiritual realms. This hybrid being symbolized wisdom, fertility, and cosmic order, illustrating how animals could be transformed into divine embodiments of complex metaphysical truths. What unites all these cultures, despite their vast geographical and philosophical differences, is the belief that animals are essential to understanding life itself. They are not accidental symbols, but carefully chosen representations of virtues, fears, and aspirations. Through them, civilizations articulated their deepest values, constructed their spiritual narratives, and developed systems of meaning that shaped their political and social realities. Animals became metaphors for cosmic forces, bridges between worlds, and teachers who offered insight into the human condition.
Over time, as cultures interacted through trade, conquest, and migration, their symbolic landscapes blended. Greek lions influenced Persian artwork. Indian serpents traveled along trade routes, inspiring motifs in Southeast Asia. The Chinese dragon merged with local spirits in Korea and Japan, evolving into new forms. The feathered serpent found echoes in cultures as far as the American Southwest. These exchanges expanded symbolic meaning rather than erasing it, creating a tapestry of interconnected myths that transcended borders. Yet even as animals gained sacred meanings, humans remained acutely aware of the tension between reverence and survival. Some sacred beasts were also predators that threatened livestock or even human life. Others were vital sources of food. Civilizations developed intricate rules governing when and how animals could be hunted or sacrificed. These rules were not arbitrary. They reflected a belief that taking a life, even for survival, required spiritual justification. Rituals evolved to ensure that any harm done to a sacred creature was acknowledged through offerings, prayers, or symbolic restitution. This delicate balance between reverence and necessity shaped ethical systems and formed early models of human responsibility toward nature. In these ancient beliefs, animals represented more than mythic symbols. They embodied the essence of the world's mysteries. They revealed the interconnectedness of all life, the cyclical nature of existence, and the moral challenges that humans faced. Through animals, ancient civilizations expressed their understanding of fate, power, transformation, and divine presence. Their stories remind us that long before modern philosophy or science, humanity sought wisdom in the living world around them, finding in the beasts of land, sea, and sky reflections of their own souls.
As civilizations matured and expanded, the role of sacred animals deepened, branching into rituals that shaped the rhythm of daily life, the structure of political authority, and the worldview through which communities interpreted the unseen forces of the universe. Animals were no longer only symbols woven into myths. They became participants in ceremonies meant to bridge the mortal world with the divine. Through them, people sought prosperity, healing, protection, and guidance. These rituals evolved over generations, taking on elaborate forms that reflected a civilization's philosophy, fears, and aspirations. In the heart of every ritual, whether humble village offering or grand imperial festival, lay a belief that animals held divine knowledge, knowledge that humans had to approach with respect, intention, and humility.
Among the most elaborate ritual systems were those of ancient Egypt, where the boundaries between animal and deity dissolved into living embodiments. Certain animals were chosen as earthly avatars of the gods, their very existence carrying sacred significance. When a bull was selected to represent Ptah or Apis, it was treated as a royal figure. Priests observed its behavior as divine messages, interpreting the tilt of its head or the movement of its tail as signs of the god's will. This fusion of animal life and divine communication created rituals that were equal parts observation and revelation. During festivals, the chosen bull was paraded through cities, its presence believed to bring collective renewal and cosmic harmony. Even its death was ritualized, followed by mummification and entombment, with honors usually reserved for kings. In Mesoamerica, rituals involving jaguars, eagles, and serpents formed the backbone of spiritual life. Priests who embodied animal spirits through masks and costumes crossed into altered states during ceremonies, believing they could commune with the gods through the attributes of the creatures they imitated. Their dances, chants, and bloodletting rites symbolized the sacrifice that maintained balance between the human world and the cosmic order. The jaguar, as a creature of night and power, represented the transition between realms. When a priest entered a trance under its symbolism, he was believed to step into the underworld, gathering wisdom or strength for the community. These rituals were not mere performances, they were cosmic negotiations, ensuring that the sun would rise, rains would fall, and crops would grow.
In Greece, rituals involving animals often carried moral or symbolic meaning rather than direct embodiment of deities. Offerings of goats, sheep, or bulls were acts of reciprocity between mortals and gods. The manner in which an animal behaved during the offering served as an omen. Whether the flame caught immediately, whether the animal trembled or stood firm, whether birds circled overhead at the moment of sacrifice. These signs guided decisions in matters of war, politics, and personal destiny. Yet Greek rituals also reflected a growing philosophical tension, a questioning of whether the divine truly required animal sacrifice or whether symbolic offerings were enough. The gradual shift away from literal sacrifice toward ritualized foods, prayers, and libations reveals an evolving interpretation of the role animals played in the spiritual contract between gods and humans. In India, animals were woven into rituals through symbolism more than physical presence. The placement of cows, the invocation of serpents in protective ceremonies, the chanting of hymns referencing horses, lions, and birds, all expressed a belief that animals were integral to cosmic functions. The horse sacrifice, known as Ashwamedha, performed by ancient kings, represented the expansion of sovereignty and the king's direct connection to divine order. Though the ritual eventually faded, its symbolism persisted. The horse remained a metaphor for vitality, authority, and the life force itself. Meanwhile, serpent rituals, particularly those honoring Naga spirits, reinforced a belief in hidden powers beneath the earth and water, forces that needed appeasement to maintain harmony. China developed rituals that mirrored its philosophical pursuit of balance. Animals represented cosmic yin and yang, the interplay between stillness and movement, earth and sky, birth and decay. Dragon dances during festivals symbolized the movement of clouds and the coming of rains. Tiger imagery protected households and villages, believed to frighten away malevolent spirits. The ritualistic placement of animal figures in tombs revealed a belief that animals guided souls in the afterlife. The presence of horses, dogs, and birds in funerary contexts reflected a worldview in which companionship and protection extended beyond death. These rituals were crafted not merely for appeasement, but to maintain equilibrium in a universe governed by cycles and oppositions.
Across indigenous cultures of the Americas, rituals emphasized the reciprocal relationship between humans and animals. The Plains tribes honored the buffalo not only as a source of survival, but as a sacred being whose sacrifice sustained the people. Ceremonies expressed gratitude, acknowledging that taking life required spiritual balance. The hunting process itself became ritualized, with prayers offered before and after, ensuring that no part of the creature was wasted. In these acts, animals were not passive symbols, they were teachers, showing humans how to live with respect, restraint, and awareness of their place in nature's web. Similarly, in the Arctic cultures, animals like seals, whales, and polar bears were honored with rituals that recognized their spirits as equal participants in the world. Hunters performed rites to ensure that the souls of the animals they took would return to the living world in another form. This belief shaped sustainable practices long before modern ecological understanding. Animals were seen as partners rather than resources, and rituals preserved that relationship across generations. As rituals evolved, they influenced social and political authority as well. Leaders often drew legitimacy from their association with sacred animals. A ruler aligned with the lion symbolized strength and guardianship. A king linked to the eagle represented heightened vision and connection to the divine. In China, emperors identified with dragons, asserting their mandate to govern as a reflection of cosmic order. These associations were not mere political strategies, they were deeply embedded in cultural beliefs about how divine power flowed into earthly leadership. Even rebellions invoked animal symbolism, claiming the favor of a beast whose qualities justified their uprising. The significance of animals in ritual also extended to healing and medicine. Many ancient healing practices invoked animal spirits for protection or restoration. Shamans used feathers, bones, or symbolic imagery to channel the qualities of animals whose strengths mirrored the needs of the sick. The serpent, with its ability to shed its skin, became a symbol of renewal and healing, a meaning still preserved today in the medical symbol of intertwined snakes. Birds, associated with the heavens, represented clarity of mind and purification. The bear, prized for its resilience, became a symbol of strength in recovery. These healing rituals were built on a profound understanding of the natural world, merging spiritual symbolism with practical observation.
As human societies grew more complex, so did their interpretations of animals in ritual contexts. While early rituals focused on survival, fertility, and protection, later ceremonies explored abstract ideas, justice, truth, enlightenment, and moral transformation. Animals became symbols of virtues to cultivate or vices to overcome. A fox might represent cunning, teaching caution against deceit. A dove symbolized peace and purity, urging people toward harmony. A scorpion warned of hidden destructive forces, reminding humans of the consequences of negligence or betrayal. Through these symbols, rituals became not just spiritual acts, but moral instruction, shaping social norms and guiding behavior. Despite the diversity of rituals across civilizations, a shared belief persisted. Animals carried messages from realms beyond ordinary perception. Whether through omens, dreams, or direct observation, the appearance of an animal at a critical moment was rarely dismissed as coincidence. A sudden flight of birds predicted storms or battles. A serpent crossing one's path signaled transformation or danger. A lone wolf's howl at night could evoke fear or signal the presence of protective spirits. In these interpretations, the natural world remained alive with meaning. Humans lived within a symbolic ecosystem, constantly reading the signs given by the creatures around them. Over time, these rituals and interpretations formed the cultural memory of civilizations.
They shaped identities, influenced art and literature, and left behind physical remains, temples adorned with animal motifs, burial chambers guarded by hybrid creatures, ceremonial masks crafted with reverence. The presence of sacred animals in these artifacts reveals how deeply integrated they were into the human experience. They were not mere decorations, but visual expressions of a worldview that saw life as an interconnected whole. Even in periods of decline or transformation, sacred animal rituals persisted. As religions evolved or were replaced, many animal symbols were absorbed into new belief systems. Serpents found roles in both protective and adversarial contexts. Lions continued as emblems of courage and royalty. Birds represented the soul in artistic traditions spanning thousands of years. This continuity shows that the bond between humans and sacred animals transcended individual religions. It was rooted in something far more fundamental: the human need to understand existence through the living world. Thus, rituals surrounding animals became windows into the soul of each civilization. They revealed what people valued, what they feared, how they defined authority, and how they imagined the universe. And in every case, animals played the role of mediators, bridging the gaps between body and spirit, earth and sky, life and death. Through ritual, the sacred beasts of the ancient world came alive, their presence shaping the rhythm of societies and the meaning of human life.
Across centuries, as human civilizations expanded outward and ideas began crossing deserts, seas, and mountains, the symbolic identities of animals transformed in profound and often unexpected ways. What had once been local spirits or tribal guardians gradually became universal archetypes that traveled far beyond their points of origin. A creature revered in one region could become a political emblem in another, a mythic monster in a third, and a moral metaphor in a fourth. As trade routes strengthened and cultural contact deepened, animals took on new roles in shaping shared human imagination. Each exchange of goods carried with it an exchange of stories, and every story carried with it the symbolic weight of animals that had guided people for generations. The Silk Road was perhaps one of the greatest conduits of such symbolic exchange. Merchants journeying from China to the Mediterranean brought not only silks and spices, but tales of dragons, phoenixes, horses, and serpents. As these stories spread, the animals within them acquired new layers of meaning. The dragon, once a distinctly Chinese symbol of benevolent cosmic authority, was reinterpreted through the lens of Middle Eastern and European imaginations. Some cultures adopted the dragon as a guardian spirit of rain and rivers. Others reshaped it into a creature of chaos and destruction. The divergence reveals how flexible animal symbolism could be, and how deeply it reflected the values and fears of the societies that adopted it. Horses, too, became powerful cross-cultural symbols. As the animal transformed warfare, communication, and long-distance travel, the horse carried immense cultural weight wherever it appeared. In Central Asia, it symbolized freedom, vitality, and mastery of the open steppe. In Persia, it represented nobility, spiritual endurance, and the eternal struggle between light and darkness. When the horse reached Europe, it became an emblem of chivalry, a partner in the knight's pursuit of honor and duty. Yet beneath all these meanings lay a universal respect for the animal's unique role in shaping the destiny of empires. Its presence in art, mythology, and ritual revealed a shared understanding that the horse bridged the human world with natural power in a way unmatched by any other creature. Meanwhile, the lion traveled even further as a symbolic figure. It roared across continents, becoming a symbol of kingship in Africa, divine justice in Mesopotamia, strength in Persia, courage in Greece, and noble authority in Europe. Even regions without native lions adopted the creature through stories brought by traders and conquerors. The lion became a mythic presence as much as a real one, crafting an image of leadership that transcended geography.
Its mane, its stance, and its fierce expression were used to shape images of rulers, monuments, and coats of arms. That a creature absent from many lands became one of the most universal animals in human symbolism speaks to the power of myth to rewrite the boundaries of nature.
Just as some animals gain symbolic universality, others remain deeply rooted in their environments, shaping beliefs that arose from local ecological realities. In the forests of northern Europe, wolves became symbols of both terror and wisdom. Their haunting howls reminded people of the thin line between human settlement and wilderness. Some communities feared them as destructive predators. Others admired their loyalty and social bonds, seeing them as examples of how groups survive adversity. This tension created a dual mythology, the wolf as a devourer of the weak and the wolf as a noble guide. Both interpretations held truth, revealing how a single creature could reflect humanity's own internal conflicts. In the rainforests of South America, animals such as the anaconda, the harpy eagle, and the capybara shaped worldviews tied to rivers, trees, and shifting seasons. The anaconda, with its massive coils and secrecy beneath the water's surface, became a symbol of both creation and destruction. Some tribes believed it shaped rivers through its movements. Others feared it as an embodiment of hidden dangers. The harpy eagle, with its immense wingspan and piercing eyes, symbolized spiritual authority and connection to the upper realms. Shamans who claimed the eagle as their spirit believed they could travel between worlds guided by its vision. These animals, intimately linked to the landscape, shaped myths that explained the world as the people experienced it, lush, dangerous, and alive with unseen forces. Africa, a continent of extraordinary ecological diversity, produced some of the most intricate symbolic systems centered on animals. The elephant, revered for its memory, strength, and complex social structure, became a symbol of both wisdom and leadership. Its presence in ceremonies conveyed stability and ancestral connection. The crocodile, inhabiting the boundary between land and water, represented adaptability, patience, and the power of ambush. Many communities viewed it with a mixture of reverence and fear, believing it to be a guardian of spiritual thresholds. The harpy eagle, often misunderstood by outsiders, played dual roles in various cultures: a trickster embodying chaotic forces, or a purifier capable of consuming what no other creature could. These symbols arose not from abstract mythology, but from generations of direct observation, turning ecological knowledge into spiritual guidance. As symbolic animals traveled across borders, they encountered new religious systems that absorbed, reinterpreted, or sometimes rejected their meanings. When Buddhism spread from India into East and Southeast Asia, it brought with it symbolic animals such as the lion, elephant, and mythical beings like the Makara. These creatures blended seamlessly into local traditions, enhancing existing symbolic landscapes. The lion, for example, became a guardian in Chinese temples, even though China had no native lions at the time. Crafted in stone, these creatures protected sacred spaces as if they had always belonged to the land. The elephant took on new meanings as well, representing mental discipline and the gentle, steady path toward enlightenment. Through these integrations, animals became bridges between different spiritual worlds, connecting diverse cultures through shared imagery.
Christianity also inherited ancient animal symbolism, reinterpreting it to suit its theological framework. The dove became a symbol of peace and the Holy Spirit, drawing from ancient Mediterranean associations with purity and divine presence. The serpent transformed into an emblem of temptation and moral danger, influenced by earlier Mesopotamian myths, yet reshaped to carry a new moral lesson. The lamb symbolized innocence and sacrifice, echoing ancient pastoral cultures, but infused with deeper spiritual meaning. Even mythical creatures such as dragons found new roles, representing evil forces that must be overcome by faith. These reinterpretations illustrate how symbols evolve, not by erasing the past, but by reshaping it, carrying forward echoes of earlier beliefs. Islamic art and literature, too, preserved and transformed symbolic animals. While Islam discouraged the depiction of living beings in sacred contexts, literary traditions embraced animals as symbols of virtues, vices, and cosmic truths. The hoopoe bird, known for its intelligence, became a guide in mystical poetry. The lion symbolized bravery and divine protection. Horses carried special reverence, connected to strength and loyalty in battle. In Persian literature, the simorgh represented spiritual awakening, guiding seekers through poetic journeys of self-discovery. These interpretations added philosophical depth to animal symbolism, turning creatures into metaphors for the soul's passage toward truth. In medieval Europe, symbolic animals populated bestiaries, illustrated manuscripts that blended myth, morality, and natural observation. These books preserved ancient symbolism while adding moral lessons tailored to Christian societies. The pelican, believed to revive its young with its own blood, became a symbol of self-sacrifice. The unicorn, representing purity and divine grace, appeared in countless tapestries. Even creatures like the phoenix, with origins in Egyptian mythology, re-emerged as symbols of resurrection and immortality. These bestiaries shaped medieval imagination and influenced art, literature, and heraldry for centuries. Across the world, animal symbolism became a language, one spoken silently through images, rituals, and stories. It allowed cultures to communicate complex ideas without relying solely on words. A single creature could represent a dynasty, guide a spiritual seeker, warn against moral pitfalls, or symbolize the origin of the universe. These meanings did not exist in isolation. They overlapped, conflicted, transformed, and blended into new forms. Symbolism became an evolving ecosystem, with animals as its most enduring inhabitants. Yet even as animal symbolism connected societies, it also highlighted differences in worldview. Where one culture saw a serpent as divine wisdom, another saw it as deception. Where one revered the wolf, another feared it. These contrasting interpretations reveal more about human societies than about the animals themselves. Each culture projected onto animals the qualities it valued or feared most: power, cunning, creativity, danger, loyalty, or transformation. In this way, animals became mirrors reflecting the aspirations and anxieties of the people who revered them.
Over time, symbolic animals shaped not only beliefs, but social structures. Clans, tribes, and families adopted totems that linked their ancestry to specific creatures. Rulers based their emblems on animals to assert legitimacy. Warriors carried shields painted with beasts whose qualities they hoped to embody. Farmers invoked animal spirits for fertile land. Mothers told stories of animals to teach children the virtues needed for survival. In every aspect of life, animals offered guidance. Silent yet eloquent companions in humanity's search for meaning. As the ancient world approached eras of transition, with empires falling and new faiths rising, animal symbolism did not fade. Instead, it adapted, merging old beliefs with new philosophies. It endured because it resonated deeply with the human experience. People found in animals an immediacy, a connection to the natural world that transcended language, class, and time. Through them, humans recognize patterns in life, cycles of birth, death, renewal, and change. And in these patterns, they glimpsed the rhythms of the universe.
As the ancient relationship between humans and animals unfolded through millennia, a profound shift began to take shape, one that would redefine how people perceived themselves and their place in the world. The symbolic power of animals, once embedded organically in ritual, myth, and daily life, gradually transitioned into more philosophical and introspective expressions. While early civilizations saw animals as intermediaries between the physical and spiritual realms, later societies began wrestling with deeper questions. What do these symbols reveal about human nature? What truths do they hold about the universe? And why do these sacred beasts endure, even when the temples, empires, and myths that revered them fade into history? The answers emerged not from a single culture, but from the universal human experience reflected across countless generations.
As societies became more complex, the symbolic roles of animals expanded into ethical and moral dimensions. Creatures once associated with cosmic forces now served as mirrors for human virtues and flaws. The lion's courage became a goal, its aggression a warning. The fox's cunning demonstrated both intelligence and deceit. The dove embodied peace, but also vulnerability. These interpretations found their way into fables, epics, philosophical writings, and even legal codes. It became clear that animals no longer stood apart from humanity as distant, sacred beings. They lived within human imagination as teachers, models, and symbols of personal transformation. Philosophers in Greece and Rome used animal metaphors to explore questions of ethics, politics, and psychology. The Stoic vision of the orderly universe drew inspiration from the disciplined movements of bees and ants. The concept of natural law emerged from the observation that all creatures, humans included, followed patterns of survival, cooperation, and instinct. Stoics admired animals for living in harmony with nature, a harmony humans often disrupted. Similarly, in Eastern traditions, animals illustrated the balance humans sought to achieve within themselves. The tiger represented inner fire. The crane symbolized calm focus. The serpent evoked spiritual awakening. These animals became internal guides rather than distant deities. In India, the evolution of the symbolic animal took on a deeply spiritual dimension. Creatures associated with deities were also seen as embodiments of cosmic principles within the human body. The serpent coiled at the base of the spine represented dormant spiritual energy, the awakening of which signaled enlightenment. The peacock embodied the triumph over fear and ego, its vibrant feathers symbolizing transformation through knowledge. The monkey represented the restless mind, energetic yet easily distracted, while the disciplined elephant symbolized the steady path toward wisdom. Through this symbolic language, animals taught spiritual seekers how to navigate their inner landscapes.
China, too, reinterpreted symbolic animals within philosophical frameworks. The dragon and phoenix came to represent not only cosmic forces, but the ideal balance between opposing qualities, strength and grace, authority and compassion, firmness and adaptability. The tiger symbolized raw power, while the tortoise represented endurance and stability. These animals guided emperors and commoners alike, shaping everything from political governance to personal conduct. Their symbolic influence extended even into architecture, city planning, and medicine, reflecting a worldview in which the animal kingdom remained inextricably tied to human destiny. In the Islamic world, animals became metaphysical symbols in poetry and mysticism. Sufi thinkers often used birds to represent the soul's longing for divine union. The hubu guided seekers through poetic journeys toward truth. The lion symbolized both physical bravery and spiritual strength. Even the humble ant appeared in mystical stories, teaching humility, patience, and the recognition of divine presence in all things. These interpretations reinforced a belief shared across many cultures, that animals, through their simplicity or ferocity, offered profound insights into the nature of existence. As the medieval and early modern worlds emerged, animals continued evolving within symbolic frameworks that blended spirituality with social structure. Bestiaries cataloged creatures both real and imagined, treating each one as a source of moral wisdom. The phoenix symbolized the resurrection and the eternal cycle of renewal. The unicorn represented purity and spiritual longing. Even dragons, once symbols of cosmic power in the East, became embodiments of spiritual struggle in the West, defeated not by brute strength, but by virtue and faith. These transformations reveal a key truth of symbolic animals. They survive because they change. Their meanings adapt to new moral landscapes, shifting belief systems, and cultural upheavals. Yet even as symbolic meanings shifted, one constant remained. Animals were inseparable from human identity. They appeared in family crests, royal banners, religious manuscripts, and everyday idioms. They shaped agricultural practices, hunting rituals, legal traditions, and educational stories. Many societies believed that each person possessed an inner animal spirit, a reflection of their character, destiny, or ancestral lineage. Such beliefs persisted well into modern times, influencing psychology, art, and literature. But with the rise of scientific inquiry during the Enlightenment and beyond, a new relationship between humans and animals emerged. For the first time, people sought to understand animals not as symbols, but as biological beings with their own complexities, instincts, and emotional lives. Paradoxically, this scientific understanding deepened rather than diminished their symbolic power. Observing the intelligence of elephants, the communication of whales, the tool-making of birds, or the social structures of wolves only strengthened the idea that animals embodied truths humans had overlooked or forgotten. Their behaviors offered lessons in cooperation, resilience, creativity, and adaptation, lessons that modern societies increasingly recognized as vital.
As ecological awareness grew in the contemporary era, animals gained yet another symbolic role: guardians of the planet's future. The sacred beasts of ancient times, once seen as mediators between gods and mortals, now symbolize the fragile balance of ecosystems. Their survival or extinction reflected humanity's moral choices. The tiger became a symbol of endangered wilderness. The elephant represented threatened memory and intelligence. The eagle symbolized freedom under siege. The whale became an icon of environmental activism. These modern interpretations, though rooted in scientific concern, carried echoes of ancient reverence. The belief that harming animals harms the world, and ultimately ourselves, re-emerged with urgency. Today, sacred animal symbolism continues to shape global culture in ways both visible and subtle. It appears in national emblems, sports mascots, literature, films, political movements, and spiritual practices. Yet beneath these modern expressions lies a continuity stretching back to humanity's earliest attempts to understand existence. Animals remain powerful, not because they are mysterious, but because they reflect the mysteries within us. They embody qualities humans admire or fear: strength, stealth, loyalty, transformation, vulnerability, freedom. They remind us of our place in nature, our dependence on the living world, and the interconnected web of life that sustains all species. The endurance of sacred beasts reveals something essential about humanity itself: that we are a species defined not only by reason, but by imagination. Our myths, symbols, and stories preserve the emotional truths that logic alone cannot express. Animals help reveal those truths. They offer a language older than writing, a vocabulary of instinct, gesture, and presence. In the quiet observation of a bird's flight, we glimpse hope. In the gaze of a lion, we see dignity. In the slow persistence of a tortoise, we understand patience. These reflections bridge time, linking ancient hunters and modern city dwellers through a shared sense of wonder. As the story of symbolic animals reaches into the present, it becomes clear that the sacred beasts of the past were never confined to temples, scrolls, or legends. They lived in the human imagination, evolving with each retelling. They shaped rituals, guided leaders, comforted seekers, and warned of moral danger. They stood beside humanity through its greatest triumphs and darkest struggles. And they remain with us still, whispering ancient wisdom through their forms and behaviors. In the end, the legacy of these sacred beasts lies not only in the myths that immortalize them, but in the enduring human impulse to learn from the living world. As long as people seek meaning in nature, animals will continue to serve as symbols, guides, and companions on the journey of understanding existence. They remind us that the universe is alive with signs, and that to interpret these signs is to discover our own place in the vast story of life.